Once upon a time, in a charming little village nestled between rolling hills, there was a bakery unlike any other. This bakery, known as the Sweet Haven, was the heart of the village. The aroma of freshly baked bread, pastries, and cookies filled the air every morning, drawing people from near and far. The bakery was owned by a kind old man named Mr. Poppins, who had a secret talent for making every treat taste like pure magic. Ella's dream. In the same village lived a bright and curious girl named Ella. Ella loved helping her mother in the kitchen, especially when they baked together. Her dream was to one day become a great baker like Mr. Poppins. But Ella's family was poor, and they couldn't afford the fancy ingredients or tools that Mr. Poppins used. Still, Ella never stopped dreaming. Every day, Ella would pass by the Sweet Haven, her eyes wide with wonder. Through the window, she watched Mr. Poppins knead dough, sprinkle sugar, and decorate cakes with such precision and joy. One day, as Ella stood outside the bakery, Mr. Poppins noticed her. He smiled warmly and invited her inside. "Would you like to help me bake today?" he asked. Ella's heart skipped a beat. "Really? Oh, yes. I'd love to," she exclaimed. A magical offer. Inside the bakery, Ella was mesmerized. Shelves were lined with jars of colorful candies, golden loaves of bread, and cakes that sparkled as if dusted with stars. Mr. Poppins handed her a crisp white apron and said, "Let's start with something simple." He showed her how to mix dough for cookies. As they worked, Mr. Poppins shared stories of his travels and the magical recipes he had collected from around the world. "Do you believe in magic, Ella?" he asked. Ella hesitated. "I'm not sure. But I believe your baking is magical." Mr. Poppins chuckled. "Well, let me show you something." He opened a small, ornate box hidden beneath the counter. Inside was a tiny vial filled with shimmering golden dust. "This," he said, "is Stardust Flour. It's very rare and very special. A pinch of this can make any baked good extraordinary. But it's not the flour alone that makes the magic, it's the heart and care you put into the baking." Ella's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can I try it?" she asked. Mr. Poppins nodded. "Of course. But remember, only use a tiny pinch." A sweet surprise. With Mr. Poppins' guidance, Ella added a pinch of Stardust Flour to the cookie dough. They rolled the dough into small balls and placed them on a tray. As the cookies baked, the aroma was even more delightful than usual, filling the bakery with a warm, comforting scent. When the cookies were ready, Ella took a bite. Her eyes widened. "These are amazing," she said. "They taste like happiness and sunshine." Mr. Poppins smiled. "That's the magic of baking with love and a little stardust." From that day on, Ella spent every afternoon at the bakery, learning all she could from Mr. Poppins. She practiced tirelessly, experimenting with flavors and designs. The villagers began to notice Ella's creations, and soon, they were coming to the bakery not just for Mr. Poppins' treats, but for Ella's as well. The baking contest. One day, an announcement was made in the village square. There would be a grand baking contest, and the winner would receive a golden whisk and a year's supply of the finest ingredients. Ella's heart raced. This was her chance to prove herself as a baker. "You should enter," Mr. Poppins encouraged her. "I believe in you." Ella spent days planning her recipe. She decided to create a magical cake inspired by the stars. It would have layers of chocolate, vanilla, and fruit, and each layer would tell a story. She worked late into the night, perfecting every detail. A twist of fate. On the day of the contest, disaster struck. As Ella carried her cake to the contest hall, a mischievous gust of wind knocked it over. Her beautiful creation was ruined. Ella felt tears welling up in her eyes. How could she compete now? Just then, Mr. Poppins appeared. He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You still have time," he said. "Let's make something new, together." They rushed back to the bakery, and with Mr. Poppins' help, Ella quickly whipped up a batch of her special Stardust cookies. They arranged the cookies in the shape of a starry night sky, adding colorful icings and shimmering sprinkles. The big moment. Ella arrived at the contest just in time. She nervously presented her cookies to the judges, explaining the story behind them and how they represented her dream of becoming a baker. The judges took a bite, and their faces lit up with delight. When it was time to announce the winner, Ella's heart pounded. And the winner is Ella, for her magical Stardust cookies. The crowd erupted in cheers as Ella stepped forward to accept the golden whisk. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she looked at Mr. Poppins, who gave her a proud nod. A bright future. From that day on, Ella's life changed. She continued working at the Sweet Haven, and with Mr. Poppins' guidance, she eventually took over the bakery when he retired. The villagers adored Ella's creations, which were always made with love and a pinch of magic. Ella never forgot the lesson she learned from Mr. Poppins. The true magic of baking comes from the heart. And as she passed on her knowledge to others, she inspired a new generation of dreamers to believe in the magic of their own talents. And so, the little bakery in the village continued to be a place of joy, wonder, and delicious treats for many years to come.